The cold morning wind swept through the crowded city streets as 17-year-old Lily stood beside her small wooden cart, carefully arranging the freshly baked apple pies she had spent the entire night making in an abandoned shelter. Every smile she offered to strangers hid years of pain. Most people walked past without looking at her twice. Some whispered that she was just another homeless girl. Others laughed when they saw her patched clothes and worn-out shoes. Yet Lily never stopped smiling because she believed kindness would eventually return to those who refused to surrender. Every pie she sold brought her one step closer to her dream of renting a tiny room instead of sleeping under broken roofs. What no one knew was that Lily carried around her neck an old silver pendant with a faded photograph inside. A photograph she couldn't even remember receiving. She had no memory of her parents, no memory of where she came from before the age of 5. Only flashes of a beautiful woman singing a lullaby and a pair of warm green eyes filled with love. Those memories disappeared every time she tried to hold on to them. The orphanage had told her she had been abandoned, but deep inside, she always believed someone had once searched desperately for her. Across the city, billionaire entrepreneur Alexander Hayes had become famous for building one of the largest technology companies in the country. But wealth had never healed the wound left 10 years earlier when his fiancée, Emily, disappeared during a charity trip after a tragic accident. Authorities searched for months before declaring her dead, though Alexander refused to believe it. He never removed the engagement ring from his pocket, carrying it everywhere as a promise that one day he would find the woman he loved. Every year on the anniversary of her disappearance, he drove alone through the city, visiting places where ordinary people struggled, quietly funding shelters and soup kitchens in Emily's memory because she had always believed every life deserved compassion. That rainy afternoon, his driver suggested taking another route to avoid heavy traffic, but Alexander unexpectedly asked him to stop beside a quiet street where a sweet smell of fresh pies drifted through the air. As he stepped out of the car, he noticed the young homeless girl politely serving an elderly veteran her last warm pie without accepting payment after discovering the old man had no money. "Everyone deserves to eat," she said with a gentle smile. Those simple words froze Alexander in place. Emily had spoken that exact sentence countless times during their years together. Curious, he watched as Lily tucked loose strands of brown hair behind her ear, revealing an identical birthmark just below her left eye. The same rare mark Emily had carried since childhood. His heartbeat quickened, but he dismissed the impossible thought. It couldn't mean anything. Still, something compelled him to buy every remaining pie. As Lily handed him the box, the silver pendant slipped from beneath her sweater. Alexander's eyes widened. It was the same handcrafted pendant he had personally designed years ago for Emily's birthday, engraved with 2 tiny intertwined roses only visible under sunlight. His hands began trembling. "Where did you get this?" he asked softly. Lily looked confused. "I've always had it. It's the only thing from before I lived at the orphanage." Alexander's voice almost disappeared. "May I see it?" She hesitated before placing it in his hands. Inside the worn photograph was half of a torn family picture. Emily stood smiling beside a man whose face had been ripped away by time. Alexander immediately recognized himself. Tears filled his eyes as memories crashed over him. Emily had been pregnant before she disappeared. Authorities had never found her body after the river accident. Could it be possible she survived long enough to give birth? Unable to ignore the overwhelming evidence, Alexander invited Lily to a nearby cafe where she nervously admitted she had always felt different from everyone else. She suffered recurring dreams of a woman singing while holding her beneath a blooming cherry tree. Alexander quietly played an old voice recording saved on his phone, a recording of Emily laughing during a charity event. Before the laughter even ended, Lily instinctively whispered, "Mama." She covered her mouth in shock, unable to explain why the word escaped her lips. Both sat in complete silence. Alexander arranged for a voluntary DNA test, promising Lily there would be no pressure regardless of the outcome. During the agonizing wait, he secretly investigated the orphanage where Lily had grown up and uncovered disturbing records. A corrupt caretaker had accepted money years earlier to hide several unidentified children brought in after disasters, forging paperwork instead of searching for surviving relatives. Emily's name appeared nowhere because authorities had believed she died before reaching medical help. But one retired nurse remembered treating an injured young woman rescued downstream who had given birth prematurely before passing away from internal injuries. Before losing consciousness, the woman had begged the nurse to protect her baby and handed over a silver pendant, whispering, "Tell Alexander, I never stopped loving him." The nurse delivered the child to the orphanage, believing proper records would be kept. They never were. When the DNA results finally arrived, the truth stunned everyone. Lily was Alexander and Emily's biological daughter. Years of loneliness, unanswered questions, and unimaginable grief suddenly transformed into overwhelming joy mixed with heartbreaking regret. Alexander broke down in tears as he embraced the daughter he never knew existed, apologizing over and over for not finding her sooner. Lily cried just as hard, not because she blamed him, but because for the first time in her life someone held her with the unconditional love she had dreamed about every lonely night. News of the reunion spread across the city after local reporters discovered that the billionaire had found his long-lost daughter selling homemade pies on the street. Instead of celebrating with extravagant parties, Alexander chose something far more meaningful. Together with Lily, he transformed the abandoned building where she once slept into a modern community bakery and training center that offered homeless teenagers free housing, education, counseling, and professional baking skills. Every pie sold carried Emily's favorite phrase printed on the box: "Everyone deserves to eat." The bakery quickly became a symbol of hope, employing dozens of young people who had once believed life had forgotten them. On the first anniversary of their reunion, Alexander finally opened the small velvet box that had remained in his pocket for 10 years. Standing beside Emily's memorial garden with Lily at his side, he gently placed the engagement ring beneath the cherry blossom tree where Emily had always dreamed of raising a family. Looking toward the sky, he smiled through tears. "I couldn't keep my promise exactly as I planned," he whispered. "But because of you, I found our greatest miracle." Lily squeezed his hand as children from the bakery laughed nearby, filling the garden with the sound of hope. She realized that although the years stolen from them could never be returned, love had quietly been finding its way back all along. The homeless girl everyone ignored had unknowingly carried the eyes of the woman a billionaire had spent a decade searching for, proving that the greatest treasures in life are often hidden beneath the simplest beginnings, and that true family is never measured by wealth, but by the love that refuses to give up. Even when the whole world believes the story has already ended, as the sun set behind the bakery that had become a beacon of hope, Lily looked at the bustling line of customers and smiled. Through grateful tears, the same hands that had once sold pies just to survive were now feeding hundreds of families every day. Alexander realized that losing Emily had nearly destroyed him, but her love had quietly lived on in their daughter, guiding them back to each other when they needed it most. Standing beneath the blooming cherry tree where Emily's memory would forever remain, father and daughter promised to honor her by giving forgotten people a second chance. Their story became living proof that destiny can hide miracles in the most unexpected places, and that true love never disappears. It simply waits for the perfect moment to bring broken hearts home again. If this story touched your heart, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who still believes that hope, kindness, and love can change a life forever.